Hi, it's Jez from Nigezza.co.uk. Thank you for joining me today. So I wonder if you can guess the theme I'm going for. So I've got some cogs, I've got some buttons, I've got some of these images. I'm going steampunk. I've not done steampunk before, I've always fancied it. Yeah, so I thought I'd have a go at doing it. So I've got some images here. These are free images, public domain images. So I've downloaded them and I've printed them. I've done them in a couple of sizes. So I don't know what I fancy. I had some of my own scanned avocado dyed paper, which was quite dark, and I decided to print it out in grayscale. Black and white didn't really work. They're the same images. So I added a couple of what I thought might be sort of steampunky adverts. I've got a few of those, but I thought I'd just pick some out. I've got this book here I got in a charity shop, and there are some great images in this book. I mean, you see that one there, I love it. So I just went through and marked a few pages where I might take some images from here to use. Some of them are quite big, so although I really liked this when I saw it in the charity shop, on closer inspection at home, some of the images I feel are a little bit large, depending on what I'm planning. Do love all these bodices, so some of these are quite small. I can use these, and yeah, so yeah, and there's some nice gentlemen there as well. I've picked out, so I've got garage gears, so a lot of these are retired stamping up things. So love all the gears, cogs and gears. Buttons I think would be useful, and there's like a lacy border as well. Got this, as you can see, I got it in a charity shop. Lots of images there that I thought I could use in steampunk. I think this was probably one of those sort of stamp sets you get free on the front of a magazine. They're a bit flimsy, and they're obviously never been used. I did stamp one, I can't remember which one I stamped, but yeah, don't get the brilliant image from them. Cheap stamps are as they are. The cheap stamps don't work very well, but I'll see how we go. I've got some lines there, got some nice laces. This was one of my favourite sets, and I've got the dies to go with this, so I'll pull the dies out actually. Just love some of these images. I've got an old typewriter there. I've got a nice gothic frame there and my favourite script. I thought some splodges, they'll go well. I quite like some of these elements. I love that. I'm not really sure if that's steampunky or not, but I thought, well, you know, let's go for it. So that was my first pulling out, and I'm now setting a challenge in junk journaling for everyone. Lovely Facebook group. Been a member of it, well, really since the beginning. And so now we're going to do some weekly challenges on it, and me and another member of the group are setting these weekly challenges. And so our first, we thought we'd do a theme for the month, and then each week it's a different thing that you're doing under that theme. So our first month's theme is sort of steampunky, Halloweeny, because it's October. And so my first challenge project is a masterboard. I thought, particularly for myself, which I thought might be helpful for other people, I've never really done anything steampunky, so I thought if I do a masterboard, that will kind of get the creative juices flowing, get some things down on paper, which then could be useful later on in the month with the other theme challenges that we set, or they could be then just cut up into tags or whatever. But it was like, I just thought it was a nice, good starting point, and masterboards are always fun to do, aren't they? So I'm going to just clear these decks a minute, and then we'll get started. So I've got one of my sort of substrates that I make. So this is 2 book page thickness. And they've just been glued together with glue stick. So it's quite a big sheet, so I may in the end sort of use this as a cover, so it's quite nice that I've made it big, so I'm just using this as a foundation. If I then cut it up into tags and such like, I'll put copy dyed paper on the other side. So I thought I'd pull out a load of sort of neutral things. These are all public domain images, so my thoughts are I'll put some things in the background to make a sort of a backgroundy thing. I've got some adverts here, which I thought some of those are quite nice. Sort of go for a sort of a neutral palette to then add the images to. And I thought if I make myself a nice neutral palette background, I can scan it and use it on other things, and then later on add stamping and what have you. So I'm just gonna sort of get these sort of ripped up ready. I like quite square straight edges. You can masterboard by ripping randomly, but I do quite like the orderedness of sort of straight edges. This particular sheet is the same. It's the same pattern repeated. I'm going to take these two from the centre there. Then I've got ripping on both sides. And I might rip it even smaller, but if I do that, if I start on the edge, it doesn't matter that that's a straight edge. Likewise here, and that could be like a nice start to it. So I'm gonna go through some of these, me playing around, creating my own sort of digital images, and so they're already sort of layered up, so I quite like that. So I might just take portions of this. I like this. Who doesn't love a little bit of sort of ledger? So I can rip this down, and then this can be added to various points. I think this has been printed on 120 GSM presentation paper. Gives you a nice image. It's quite a nice weight, and when it's added to this, it will give quite a good sort of foundation. So just going to take that end bit off there. I'll go along there. That'll be cool. So I think a nice little bit of that sort of script on it, I think, will go nicely with the theme. This is sort of in nice sort of sections as it is. I can just take little bits of that, and that's sort of quite nice, and that'll be quite good dotted around the thing. I don't want anything too massive. I quite like that section there. I think that will look cool. I won't cut any more of that up for now. This was me playing, so I don't want the people in this, so I'm gonna take them out for now. I do like that there with that, so we'll have that. We've got a little bit of sort of floral elements going on there. I like that. I like that with the writing behind. But been on holiday, and so I was playing with some software that I've got to help me make things like this, and liking that, liking this. I'll take a bit of that. So once I've got a few bits already, I'll start sort of putting them together. So I mean, obviously I might dig back into these things, but I'll just put them down there for now. I liked some of these adverts as well. I thought the Singer Sewing Machine was quite good. Quite like that little advert there. So I'll go carry on pulling out different things to use. So I've cut a few bits up. I realised I haven't got enough, so I went and I've got some sort of neutral prints that I can sort of add to it. I just want to create a background really. So yeah, I'm going to carry on. So I've sort of ripped things up, put them about. It will change as I start sticking them down, but I'm basically going for a very neutral background. I want a background that I can then sort of scan, and then I'm going to add the sort of steampunky images to this, so then it will turn into actually something I'm going to use in a steampunk project, but the first layer could be for anything. Okay, so I'm going to stick this down and I'll do it sort of speeded up, so that you can see, but it doesn't take too long and you're not bored. Okay, so that is the first part of my masterboard done. So it's given me a nice neutral background. I am going to ink over it. So when I do masterboards, I don't ink every little edge because that takes forever. What I do is I come in with a blending brush and some ink. I tend to use soft suede by Stampin' Up. I have lots and lots of Stampin' Up inks. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I like the colour, so I just go over it, and because the edges are ripped and sort of fluffy, then it takes the colour, so then that is a time saver, I think, and it works really well. So once I've done this, I will then scan this, because this is all images in the public domain, so that I know I can freely use and copy. Once I've added stamps to it, then it's no longer scannable, because that be copyright issues. So yeah, so that is that bit done. And so I scan as A4, so this is an A4 sheet, so I will put that up against my scanner and I'll have one sheet, and then I can move it across. I have two sheets, can move it down, 3 sheets, move it that way, 4, and I can repeat, and so I can actually get quite a few sort of scanned masterboards by just doing this the once. And this is quite neutral, and I could use this for lots and lots of sort of vintage projects. And and then we're going to make this very steampunky by adding the steampunk images, and then that will tie in with some of the adverts that I've chosen. So yeah, I will be back with you once it's all scanned. Okay, so I've had that sat on my desk. I put some books on it to weigh it down, because with glue stick I find we do get a little bit of slight warping, and I wanted it flat to sit on my scanner bed. It's now been puckered a bit because it's been on my scanner bed. Anyway, so from that sheet I've got 8 scans. So I scanned that bit, and then I scanned, moved it, I scanned that bit, and then I moved it again and scanned the bottom bit, and then we moved it. Ooh. I scanned that bit, and then I moved it again and scanned that bit. So I've got 4 similar pieces, but they are slightly different. And then I turned it into portrait, and I did the whole scanning process again. So we've got that bit and that bit. Not a lot of difference between that. It just goes ever so slightly up to the top, so there's not massive difference between those two. And likewise on this side, we've got one where we're right up the top and one where we just push down to the bottom. So there's not a lot of difference between these sheets at all. But there, so I've got these to use over and over again. So that sort of cuts your work down, I feel. One thing you might have noticed, and I don't usually do this, but all of these sheets are in the same orientation. So so everything's going, you know, in the direction as if you were looking at it. Normally when I do masterboards, I change the orientation so it doesn't matter which way round they are, but yeah, I chose not to in this instance. You could use this as a page, so actually that works quite well with it being in the right orientation. And because I've got loads of masterboards where they're all over the place, I thought it didn't really matter. And the advantage of having them in different orientations, I do love how that worked out there, having different orientations, is that if you like turn it into an envelope or whatever, it don't really matter which way. And if you do, so if I printed on the other side and I did like sort of pockets, it doesn't really matter. All of those are upside down, but if they're in different orientations, you'd have some upside down, some not so. So that's one of the advantages of doing that. So what I would like to do now, and I'm not going to, but ideally, before I add my sort of steampunk themed images, I would like to put stamping behind. But my stamps would mean that it was, no, it would now be copyrighted. So I'm going to put these images on first and then scan again, so that I've got another 8 sheets with steampunk themes on it, and then I'll stamp. And when in my final stage of stamping, that means it's no longer copyright. It's now under copyright, so it's not copyright free is what I'm trying to say. So obviously this sort of black printed on white, I mean these 3 images there are slightly not black. I did then print it again in black and white without sort of colour, so they're now properly black and white, and then I pressed print and I forgot to do 2 per page like a book. So yeah, I'm thinking this size is quite nice. I think that's quite big. I think these would probably be quite good if I'm making tags and want to feature that size. But for the masterboard, I think I'm going to stick with this size. I'm not sure that I want to repeat them. I did it 2 per page, so that's why we've got some repeated patterns. But I think we might just have those. Obviously it's white. I'm going to ink it. I'm going to ink it before I rip them up, because that would be easier. So I'm just going to go over with my blending brush and distress that a bit. So going to get me soft suede and have some colour behind, and then they'll blend better. So I'll just speed up whilst I'm doing this. So they're all inked up nicely, and as I was inking it, I was sitting there thinking, you might, like me, I've got digitally, I've got this. Now I could have actually printed all these images on, I could have printed this sheet and then fed it back through my printer with these printed on it, and that would have saved the inking. So yeah, or you could do it onto coffee or tea dyed paper. I've never had much success with putting them through my printer, don't like it. So now I've got these images and they will sit quite nicely with that. These two sort of more blanker sheets, I thought a nice bit of stamping on those would be good. So now I could rip them, but there's a bit of me that thinks, well, I'm going to rip them, but I could rip them with my ruler. But I'm thinking I might do a bit of fussy ripping with them, and because that's what I'm deciding to do. So I'm just gonna, this is 120 GSM paper. I might have been better off doing it on just ordinary copier paper, given that I'm ripping them. It would have made the rip process a bit easier, but done it now. I think when I was printing them, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. So I just wanted to have some images to use. Now the theme is not only steampunk for this challenge, it's Halloween. We thought it's October. Some people like to do Halloween, don't they? I'm not a huge Halloween person myself. I was when the kids were little, but you know, not now. Well, having said that, I do love dressing up, and I have been to quite a few Halloween events over the years. So so I do actually like Halloween, but yeah. I saw some great steampunky Halloweeny images. I went on Pinterest, and yeah, there was some brilliant sort of pumpkins with those steampunk sort of glasses that you get. They looked fabulous, very metal, lots and lots of cogs, and I've got cogs to add as well. Well, I haven't cut them out yet, but I've got the dies, so that will be the next stage of building up my masterboard. I'm just doing this in this way so that I can scan it, pure and simply. That's what I'm doing. Now I'm going to bring in some early espresso, I think. Let's have a little bit of darkness. A little bit dark. It's much darker. Yeah. I think that might look good around the edges, and they'll show up a little bit more. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rip round these and then sort of play with the placement of where I want them, and I think I do like them fussy ripped like that. I did think about using my scan and cut to cut them out, but I quite like the ripped edges. I think that looks a bit better. Could do either, to be fair, whichever you like. All right then, so I'm going to do this. I'll do it speeded up. So that's them all inked and on there. And I was kind of, as I was doing it, was kind of looking at what the adverts were and sort of matching things up. So we got typewriter there, so I've matched that up there. We have some music there, so I've got like an old gramophone there. This one's got like the binoculars and the glasses, so I've put that image there with the binoculars and the hat there. And you might have seen, I'm not sure how easy it is when you do time lapse, I cut out of the other image the binoculars and put it on there to make it look like one of those sort of hat things. What else have I matched up? The scissors with the sewing machine, and this amazing flying machine, I've matched that up there to the sale of sails, riggings and rigging, etc. Thought that went quite nice. Quite like the pointy hands pointing at things. I did have a song going around in my head when I was looking at those magnificent men in their flying machines. Kept playing in my head as I was doing that. So quite like that, all sort of nicely sort of spaced out. I will be adding stamping in these sort of more plainer areas, but for the moment that is what I like. So I'm going to stick these down, and then I'll scan it, and I'm thinking about whether or not I want to put some gesso and stuff on it to knock it back a bit. Can't decide on that just yet, but I'm going to stick them down and see what I feel. So there we go, that's it, looking a little bit more steampunky. Now I added a little bit of ink to this one because I noticed a bit of whiteness on it, and I thought, oh, I quite like the look of that. So I'm thinking I'm gonna just go around each of these images that I've added to make them sort of blend into the background a bit more and make sure all the edges are inked up. I think I need a little bit more ink on there. So they're blending in a little bit better there. So there we have it. So I'm going to scan this one more time before I add any stamping to it. Okay, so there they are, all scanned again. So like before, I have eight sheets, and yeah, they're now ready on my computer to print off whenever I want to use them. So now I'm going to add stamping to it, so I won't be able to scan it. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my stamps and yeah, add a little bit. I always felt that I will ultimately need some words, so I created a sheet of sort of steampunk words as well. Spent me ages choosing a font. I'm quite happy with the way I've done it, and I just picked out a few words: steampunk, remember, traveller, vintage, memories, discover, curiosities, travel, clockwork, explore, dream world, possibilities, dream, journey, explorer and adventure. So they're now ready, and I can either cut them out, crash bang wallop, or I'm not sure if they'll fit this. Oh, they will. Oh, that's fabulous. Look at that. So I can use my punch it out. So then when I've made something, I can add that word to it. So it's on a white background, so I did then, after I made this one, I then made another one where I turned the writing this colour, but I thought actually I could just ink it how I want it. Yeah. So I quite like that with the jagged edge. I do have another punch that is got like a washi tape shape. These are all retired, well, both of these are retired Stampin' Up punches. There, so that one sort of looks a bit like washi tape. So quite like them. I may or may not add these to my masterboard. I'm not sure. There's a bit of me that thinks that these need to be added to the final bit. So that's for later. So let's get stamping. So I have got, and I've got dies that I can add as well, which I can. I'm going to leave that on for the moment. Going to use soft suede, and I might use some early espresso as well. So I want an image here. I might put that typewriter on there. See, my thoughts are that really I'm creating a sort of a mood board, was what I was thinking, that will give me inspiration for the rest of the projects. How cool's that? Love it. Right. Let's have some other images. I quite like this bat. I'm thinking I'm just going to have the one, and I'm going to put him down here. Okay, so I've been busy die cutting. So I have used this lacy border die, and I've cut some out in black, and I've cut some out in early espresso. I thought they might look nice. I was going to do this big border, but I actually think that might be a bit over the top. I might use that on a, you know, when I cut it up or do something with it. I've used the buttons here. This is Arts and Crafts dies. These are dies that are no longer available, the Stampin' Up dies, and I cut a load of cogs. So, just going to move this out of the way a moment. So, I've got these. I cut them out, some out of silver and some out of gold. This is just Miri board, the sort of cheap stuff that you get in like Being Home Bargains or Pound Stretcher, something like that. So just El Cheapo stuff, and I don't want them to look like this, so I had an experiment, and this is what I come up with. So you can see the difference. So that once looked like that. So it was once really shiny and really silvery, and now it's a bit duller, and it looks a little bit, well, what I wanted it to look like was like it being like oiled and in a garage for ages. So I've got sort of bits of black, bit of brass, slight dulling, and that's what I've done with these little cogs as well, to give that sort of effect. My dad was a mechanic, so I wanted them to look like the sort of things that I'd find in his workshop. So yeah, I think we do a bit. So it was quite easy. I haven't tried it on the gold. What I wanted was the buttons to have a little bit more of a brassy look. My dad was also in the Navy, and he always had these lovely brass buttons, but they were like quite dull over time. So that's the sort of look I'm going for. So I'm bringing in my messy pad, and I'm using some Stays On ink. So let's get these all, so there. Let's do the silver ones first. So I got some of these poppers cut out. These are of silver, and then these ones are cut out of the gold. So we'll do the silver first, because I know that works, and we'll do these gold ones afterwards. Right, so here we go. So I have got jet black Stays On. So this is a solvent ink, as is this one. This is Saddle Brown. Okay, I do sell these in my Stampin' Up shop, and what I did, you can probably see on here, was I just ran it over on this, just picking up different bits of it. Let's just get these little poppers off. There we go. So it's not full coverage, it's kind of picked up the top of it. I'm not sure how much that can be picked up on the camera. Okay, so did that. And then I got the black one, and I wanted to go over the black. So that at the moment is still quite shiny, got some silver bits on it. So I'm going to just rub the black over in different places like so. So we got a bit black on there, and I'm going to do the same on these. So we've got a mixture of both colour. I love the smell of this. Smells of almonds. Love it. And Then what I did was I got my alcohol markers. So I've got a soft suede and the basic black, and I just, some of the bits on these cogs, there's like a triangle there that's indented, so I just went round some of these indented bits and drew on the little sections, just a little bit random. And that, I don't know why that hole's not come out. I'll get it out in a minute. So doing the same on here, just dotting a bit of this around. Okay, because these are alcohol as well, so they're a bit like a Sharpie. If you've got Sharpies, they'll probably work so that they'll not necessarily rub off. No chance of it clinging. So just dab it around. Okay, as it's alcohol, it should dry quite quickly, so don't know how much that, but you can see it's still very shiny. But we got mixtures of black and gold on there. I'm gonna just put a little bit across there. Yeah, just felt it needed a little bit dulling down there. Okay, and then the final thing I did was I got my sanding block. I did initially do it with a emery board, but then I went, oh, we need it much quicker. So I just then rubbed this over the top, and that sort of dulls it down a bit, and I think gives it that look that I'm going for. And where I've got ink and alcohol markers, they've sort of stayed down the groove, and it kind of gives the effect of lots of oil that's accumulated down there. So that's what I did. I kind of did a few together. There we go. So it just takes that sort of shine off, and the different layers of ink that I've put on it are showing at different levels. Okay, and we'll do the little press studs. I think they're quite cool, quite fiddly. The die cuts all three of them out at the same time. Just a bit of a time saver. There we go. So I'm going to rub that over. I just love this cog. There is a stamp set that goes with it, but I didn't want that. I only wanted the cogs. And there, that's what that's looking like. I'm really not sure if that camera's picking it up. Might be a bit there. So that's them. We'll put them to one side ready to add. And then I'm gonna do a similar thing now with these buttons. I want to make them look like old brass buttons. Right, so that's given them all a bit of a rub. I'm gonna now, I might put some black on. Let's see what happens when we put a bit of black on. Oh yeah, quite like that. It is adding a little bit to it. And you can see the difference there. Definite colour difference there. Oh, smell of almonds. It's like marzipan. So I just need to make sure that I leave these to dry properly. And then I might give them another rub over with sanding block. So I'm going to leave those to dry. Okay, I'm not very patient. I've been and I've washed my hands, and then I've kind of had a little look, and yeah, they'll do. I did rub that one, so that one's been rubbed a bit more, and that one hasn't. So there is a bit of difference. So I'm gonna give it a bit of a rub. And we have got slight dulling going on. So yeah, quite happy with how they turned out. Do like a bit of an experiment. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. And if it was ruined, it's a bit of mirror board. I can just cut it again. I've just wasted a bit of time, and I know not to do it again, but actually I like it. Move about. There, I'm done. I'm happy. And you can see that they do look different to the ones that were done on silver, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to have a variation of colour, and we can compare like with like. So we've got those little press studs there that were done in silver, and there they are done in the gold, and there is a difference in the colouring of those. So I'm just going to put these in a pot, and then we'll get our masterboard back, and we'll sort of arrange them. These cogs are quite big, so I'm kind of looking for spaces where so it fits nicely there. It does fit nicely there. It's on top of each other. I don't really want it there, so I'm actually going to move it across there. Yeah, we'll have that there. Then we've got some string of buttons. I could always cut the buttons up. Don't have to have it in a full string, but I do have the individual ones, so I feel like there's less need to cut them up. I'm sort of looking at areas where there's seams, where there's joins. Right, there's that. Yep, I like it how that's looking. And then we've got these lacy bits to stick on. I am thinking of cutting them up so they're not so long. Remind me a little bit of chokers. I might call that done. I'm going to glue it down. I'm just kind of looking at it, standing up, quite liking that. So I'm going to kind of glue it down. There's a bit of me now that's thinking a little bit of thread through those buttons. So I had a good old rummage through my drawers and I found this wax cord that looks a little bit like leather, so going to use a bit of that. And I found this lovely lace, which, although I don't want it to go on the masterboard, when it's cut up, this lace, I think, in places will look lovely. So that's going to go on it at some point. And I also found I've got a little zip would look good, but not on the masterboard, for later when I sort of cut it up and use it for things. So let's have a bit of this black cord. Goodness only knows, this was from the works, but like ages ago, like years and years. So no idea we can get it now, but I'm sure we can get other things. So I just thought, stick it through and tie it in a knot. Just give it something. Double knot, then it won't undo. That's the hope. And then I'll just trim off. Gives it a little something. It does stick up a bit because of the fact that it's quite thick. So, you know, maybe ordinary black thread would work better. But I thought I might do that on a few of them. So I'm going to get these stuck down, add a bit of thread to some of them, and then we'll see the finished product. So that's them all stuck down and done. And then I had a thought, because I can't just stop. I've got some of this bright copper shimmer paint, and I wondered about dabbing some of that on these lacy bits. I did have a little practice. I quite like the look. I think that might look nice. It's now mixing copper with the gold and the silver and the sort of brassy look, but I think that's okay. So got a glove because it's a bit messy, and I did have a little look. This might be getting quite long, this video, so I do apologise if it is. So I'm just give this a bit of a shaky, and what that does is it gives me a bit in the lid there, which I then use this dauber on. So I just daub it down a bit. Got quite a lot there. Shake some off. So I wish I had actually done this before I'd laid it down, but you know, I didn't. So if I dab a bit on and then give it a rub, that works. It's just subtle. Just subtle. That's all I want. I guess if you've got gilding wax, you could add something like that. I don't. I bought some once, and wow, it was dry. I think it was dry when I bought it. A little bit gone on there, but it doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't matter. So yeah, quite liking this. I'm going to carry on, I think. I think that's a good look. So yeah, don't really show up on these bits, does it? No. Oh, maybe slightly. That's my little finishing touch. So that's it done. My Steampunk Masterboard. So if you want to join in the challenge, it is over on Junk Journaling for Everyone. It's steampunk stroke Halloween, if you want to put a little bit of a Halloween twist into it, given that it is October. And yeah, I'd love to see what you come up with, and I shall admire this for a bit before I decide what I'm going to do with it. I mean, it could be quite a nice cover actually, or just chopped up into pockets, belly bands, tags, journaling cards, tucks, anything really. So there we go. Hope that was useful. And yeah, I'll be with you again soon. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll link down below to all the inks and things that I use that you can buy. And most of the dies and stamps are actually retired, I'm afraid. Okay, bye for now.